was a whole lot of tea. Who knew doctors had more drama than reality TV?
And if you think that was wild, just wait till next week. We've got more stories, more scandals, and more credentialing chaos coming your way.
And if you love the tea, please don't keep it to yourself. Like to show us you're listening. Please comment and join the conversation. And follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, share so everyone else can sip with us.
Yeah, so see you next time on Credentialing Chronicles. Stay credentialed, not canceled.
Welcome back to Credentialing Chronicles. Girl, we have had a recent drop. Are you ready? Have you been ready? I've been ready to record again.
I know. I'm so happy to be back, after all this NAMS and all this fun stuff we've been doing, kind of had some time to regroup. But girl, we need to talk about the HHS, the Health and Human Services, and the OIG. They dropped a video on LinkedIn. And, we do get a lot of stories from people that share stories on LinkedIn and stuff like that, where they actually called out Medicaid fraud control results. Apparently, they recovered about $1.4 billion in fraud last year alone. And that's just what they found. Meanwhile, providers are still billing for 1,000 ankle bracelets on amputees. They don't even have legs. So why is this still happening? If the fraud is obvious, why is this still allowed?
This episode, right, Nyleen, that's what we're going to tackle. We're going to talk all about OIG. I think we're going to talk about how people are able to manipulate Medicaid so easily, right? I mean, it just seems like we always hear about some type of Medicaid fraud, and it's not even 7 billion anymore. It's like 1.3 billion. It's all of it's in the billions now.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of zeros, right? And so apparently in these videos that they've been dropping, which social media has allowed a lot of things to spread very, very quickly. Apparently, some of the highlights are that there was 1,100 convictions, more than 1,100 convictions, then almost $1 billion in criminal recoveries, $407 million in civil settlements, and leading to over 1,000 provider exclusions. So for those of you that don't know, when we do our searches as credentialers to see if a provider, right, is excluded, which is that OIG, right, and that SAM exclusion, we can't bill for Medicare or Medicaid services, over 1,000, can we even afford 1,000 people being excluded at this point in healthcare, Shannen?
I mean, if they ain't doing right, they need to be excluded, right? But let's talk about for a minute. So it's OIG, that is the federal one. And then it's SAM, System of Award Management. That is another federal database that you all should be verifying, whether you're a big practice, small practice, surgery center, hospital. Then there's OFAC, Office Foreign Asset Control, that you can verify as well. And then NCQA, with the new standards, they say now you actually have to verify the Medicaid in the state as well. And they want to see that.
Good. Yes. And we should be. Every Medicare and CMS, you can go to CMS and also do a check. And then, of course, the Medicaid in your state.
And I think it's a little confusing, to be honest, because for just everybody out there, it's not always like a search like on SAM or OIG. Sometimes it's like an Excel spreadsheet. Most of the time when you're going to the state, you need to go, and it's like an Excel spreadsheet that they update, and then you have to do a Control F, and you don't want to find your provider's name on that spreadsheet. So that's pretty much exactly how you're supposed to go in there and check, right, Nyleen?
Exactly. And then to go back to this whole using LinkedIn and using public websites, and something that doesn't require, we don't need to know someone's personal information to research this information on a physician. They're focusing on market intelligence, I guess you can say. Fraud, it shouldn't be hidden anymore. It just doesn't hide anymore. They want us to know that they're watching and that they're telling other people where to go, what to do, and that it's going to be exposed.
Which is such a different approach from how it used to be, because it wasn't like that. But now again, just even with Credentialing Chronicles, I mean, we advocate for transparency in these processes as well. So it's really good that now it's just required to go on and do these checks and have these checks as part of your credentialing file.
Your credentialing solution. In a busy hospital, time is of the essence. But what happens when your credentialing staff is short-staffed and overwhelmed? AQC is your trusted credentialing verification organization. They provide credentialing, contracting, and monitoring services for hospitals, surgery centers, and clinics nationwide. With AQC, you can say goodbye to the stress and uncertainty of credentialing. AQC, your solution for continuous compliance and credentialing verification. For more information, contact us, www.aqccvo.com.
Yeah, so let's talk about some tea about some of these braces I talked about. So girl, it's the 1,000 leg braces scheme. Apparently back in 2023, it was reported that a doctor was prescribing leg braces for actual amputees.
And leg braces. You know the leg braces because you are over at the orthopedic clinic every day. So I know I mean, it's hard because you tell me all the time you're getting denials. They make you prove stuff. So it's like, how did they get away with 1,000, Nyleen?
Exactly. And I have to put the right modifier. Sometimes I put that it's the right modifier, left or right knee, right? And they still deny it. They're like, missing modifier. I'm like, left is right on there. And so I'm like, imagine putting
or you
left
told me the surgery, and then you're like, prove that you had the surgery. You're like, prove I had the surgery. Like on Cardi B. I'm like,
and then apparently then the OIG flagged improper payments and abuse around these like off-the-shelf or orthotic braces. So something that's really interesting is braces come in off-the-shelf or custom made. So each one has a different code associated, right? There's a different L code is what they're called, for whether or not the doctor manipulated the brace or if it was custom fitted, custom measured to the patient, and each one gets reimbursed separately, right? So apparently from 2014 to 2020, Medicare paid over $5.3 billion on them. But then OIG went in and called them a top improper payment DME category. So it was like they were using these DMEs to not bill them appropriately. So like maybe they were saying they were custom, but they were actually off the shelf. So you could use the wrong code, and then the reimbursement is like a huge difference. It's like could be up to $200, $300, $400, $500, $2,000. I mean, a custom brace, I could get reimbursed like somewhere between $2,000 to $3,000 on a custom brace versus maybe
for
$200
like a leg?
on off the shelf for a knee. Yeah. So, I mean, you're talking about 10 times different, right? So the price difference is huge. So if an office is falsely saying that they were billing a custom brace, but it was really an off-the-shelf brace, you can see the problem of the fraud, right?
Makes sense. I see it. Yeah. And then how do you know, right?
How do you know? You have to go and check the records because,
Or you have to have a picture of Susie with the off the shelf brace and not the custom one, right? Because Susie doesn't know. Susie doesn't know that. Yeah, Susie doesn't know.
Actually, and I have a separate form that has to be filled out when it's a custom fitted brace. So when you order an off the shelf, it's just like a sticker that you get. But when it's a custom brace, you have to actually fill out an entire form. So patients, just be aware, there's a lot more documentation. If they're not doing that, you can Google the code that's on your EOB, guys, and you get it. And just know that, we want to make sure we're billing the right thing. And so, these were repeat offenders.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they found a loophole and then they exploited the loophole, it sounds like, right?
They sure did, girl.
Yeah,
did.
And then it makes it harder for people like you that literally are just trying to get a custom brace for Susie because she really needs one, right? Because now you have to go through all this scrutiny, right? Yeah.
And then apparently this DME fraud, it just keeps going and going and going. Yes.
Well, the other one that you were talking about was the gold rush in June. This was this year. It was in June 2025. And it was a record-breaking national healthcare fraud takedown, they said. And 300, right? It was over 300 people.
Yes. So it was 324 defendants, including 96 doctors, nurse practitioners, pharmacists, and other licensed medical professionals. Yes. And it was in 50 federal districts. Okay. And 12 state attorney general's offices across the United States. Yes, it was over $14.6 billion in intended losses. So justice.gov did an entire article on this, and that's what we're using to reference. But basically, the takedown involved federal and state law enforcement agencies across the country and represents an unprecedented effort to really combat these health care fraud schemes, because it exploits our patients and obviously our taxpayer dollars that are paying for these, federal government programs. And so what ended up happening is they just started seizing all of this stuff, and it's like millions upon millions. I don't even know how they're going to get all this money back from these people.
Well, I mean, my question is how does a person get paid, bill, right, and get paid for $1 billion in urinary catheters? I mean, right? I mean, so I figure once you hit maybe 1.2 million, we should go and say, where are all these catheters going? Why you have so many catheters being billed, right?
Well, that was part of it. So now this is a different kind of DME, right? So this is catheters that are being used for patients that need assistance at home. I didn't know this until I started working in nephrology, but there's people that are born either with problems with their bladder or are, in wheelchairs, whatever, and people have to cath themselves in order to relieve their bladder. So people do need catheters at home, and it is a supply that can be ordered for the patient at home. But girl, they were saying everybody needed a catheter. You need a catheter. You need a catheter.
All day long catheters. I mean, what, 1 billion catheters is just astronomical amount of catheters. I mean, right, Nyleen? I mean, that's just wow. I mean, if you're listening and you need to comment on this episode and say, that $1 billion, I need some feedback, is a lot of dang catheters.
I want to know in how many countries are these catheters located that we're supplying as America?
Where? I mean, I just can't even imagine. And then, well, like you said, 4.4 billion, everything is the billion now, right? And it was what, $18 paid via supplemental insurers? So that was like they were getting $18 for each catheter?
The secondaries from Medicare, so that 20%. So it's not only what Medicare paid, but then a lot of those claims just roll over if the patient has a secondary insurance. So if the secondary owed like $3 or $10 or $20, depending on the 20% co-insurance, then they usually just automatically pay whoever the Medicare paid.
And so you're scamming pretty much 2 insurance companies.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I mean, patients need to know because DM rings target basic needs, it seems like, right? What will you talk about? Braces, urinary catheters. These are basic things they're not going after the stent that goes into the heart, right?
Yes. Oh, girl, but I do have a story about a stent that goes in our heart. We got to talk about that on another episode. Had a patient who was billed for a stent, even got the implant card at home. Patient never got a stent. But anyway, we'll go on that episode later.
Yes.
So anyway, every unnecessary brace. What does that mean, Shannen?
I mean, it means like if an agency can move catheters like they're flipping burgers, then brace fraud isn't a rare blip. It seems like a line of item in the business model, right? We can just keep on billing for this. It's not going to be noticed. And I think, that's kind of how these schemes, feel like they're so clever, right? Because it's just something that's always there. Like a service fee, like when you call to pay your electric bill and then they charge you $10 for calling to pay your electric bill. You're like, I know that's a scam. I feel like this is a scam, but I mean, what can you do, right? So I guess they're just industrializing theft, all over the place. I mean, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it keeps happening all the time, either because they think they're not going to get caught, or it's easy, it's just automatic billing. But no, it's like an organized traffic ring. I mean, really, or organized crime, right?
And then it affects people like you guys, I mean, that's the thing. People practicing in clinics, regular doctors trying to do the best thing.
Well, and it affects anybody that's trying to credential a physician or enroll a physician with an insurance company, right? Because now all of these issues are like limiting panels. There's more scrutiny. There's just a lot of things happening on the back end that always there to hurt the physician, unfortunately.
And it keeps happening because the system's meant, to catch it, either don't have the teeth, they don't have the resources, the political, stuff. We expect sometimes, maybe a law will stop it. So, a lot of the laws that get put in place, to kind of catch some of this. And, like you said, OIG is out there. They're trying to make it more public, more transparent.
Right. And why does this brace fraud and this DME fraud keep happening, guys? Well, because really there truly is low oversight on DME. And for those of you out there, next year, my goal is, because we're doing all this provider enrollment, I do want to have a session on DME at NAMS. I would really like to talk about that because I've learned so much, not only through this podcast and speaking to you and and having to go through the process myself, but really DME has very little oversight, because as a DME supplier, right, or provider, I can now give DME to maybe the orthopedic surgeon downstairs. They can send their patient and I can give a DME a brace. They say, hey, this person has a hurt hand and we don't have a DME license. I can give the patient a wrist brace. So a lot of times it doesn't require a treating provider history, right? Just like CVS can sell wrist braces, I can sell wrist braces as long as I have a license to do so and a Medicare number.
But the DME people go through so much to get DME license. So it's like, why? I mean, you have to get an accreditation somewhere. You have to get Medicare approval.
Which is not easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy. You have to go through a site visit. And so, I guess Medicare, CMS is saying, we have put a lot of things in place to kind of protect it. So if the fraudsters are getting through, because the accreditation is not cheap, y'all.
No, not at all. I have to pay a license. We had to pay a pharmacy license. We had to pay to enroll in Medicare. Then it's every 3 years for Medicare. It's not like,
validation.
Revalidation, yeah, for Medicare, right? It's 5 years. But for DME, it's 3 years. And so it's like insane, because we're going through all of this extra scrutiny, random audits. I'm expecting my second audit soon from Medicare. I have to have my binders. I have to have my bonds. I have to have all this stuff. So how are they doing these fake prescriptions through like algorithms and like clickbait telemed and those phone calls where they like call old people and are like, hey, did you need XYZ at your home?
Yeah, let's sign you up for this. You're right. Yeah. And we find a lot of times that they are repeat offenders. So it's like they know how to get through the system. They know how to bill big. They get caught. They get in trouble, and then they go out and do it again. You're seeing that in the research that you're doing. Because when I'm researching, I say this is happening over and over, right? Even the telemarketing, like you said, and automatic orders and stuff.
Yes. So for every dollar that we're spending investigating these fraudulent claims, billions are just flowing out untouched. And that's why we need smarter prepayment detection and not just cheer for, post-bust headlines. We need to educate people into what to look for beforehand. And as providers and as DME suppliers, we want to make sure that we're doing it correctly, appropriately, and safely for our patients, and don't get involved in anything that seems shady.
Yeah, and I mean, you think, with all the AI use, it would be nice if somebody would say, hey, we made this AI system that can scrub everything and see if anything looks fraudulent, right? It would be like, that would be such a great way to use AI,
Well, girl, I just came from Becker's and it's a thing. It's happening. There are companies out there that are using AI to supposedly do full billing, RCM out there. And I think we saw at NAMS too, even like provider enrollment, they want to like call the insurance for us and stuff like that. So it's happening. It's out there. There are physicians and really, really smart people trying to make this happen. But I'm not sure. I'm a little concerned that if we take away the human touch, we might actually be prone to more kind of fraud sometimes. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm a little worried to go fully AI automated. Maybe like cross agency, like data sharing, Medicaid, talking to private insurers, Medicare and Medicaid, kind of communicating throughout. Public exposure, obviously, things like us, things like LinkedIn, using and leveraging social media, pair with internal dashboards that are, suspect any fraudulent billing. I mean, I don't know. What else do you think that we can say? Hey, how do we flag this stuff?
Yeah, well, I love the fact that NCQA, we've always verified as a CBO the state exclusion, and so the fact that, NCQA is saying, hey, that now needs to be part of a file is something that I feel like is very helpful, because how we see a lot of doctors going from one state to the next state and just doing the same thing and not being caught. And so I feel like that's going to help a lot. The other thing I think, again, is sharing information when one facility is talking to another one, again, but it's DMEs. And so like you said, it's just a whole different group, and it's a whole different caliber, and there's not, but by the time, they get away with the billion, they done got away with it, what are we gonna, by the time we know the OIG has posted the fraud feed and that they caught the billions and the person's in jail on LinkedIn or on, social media, and it happened before we could even blink.
So what do we tell our physicians? Do you think it's worth going through the effort of DME? I mean, from my perspective, absolutely. I mean, because we get to help the patient, right? Patient comes in, their hand hurts, we give them a brace, it works great. Reimbursement is fantastic with DME. And is that a bad thing or a good thing? I'm almost scared to say it, because it provides a very good service for the patients. It's a great avenue, but we just got to do it safely, right? Just like everything else. When we practice medicine, when we do billing, when we do everything, we want to make sure we're practicing safely and, not
responsibly and transparently.
Responsibly, yes.
And, with patients in mind, and we don't want to participate, even if it, brings a couple of extra dollars, because that can turn quickly into billions of dollars.
Mm-hmm. And patients, learn how to read your EOBs. So those remits from your insurance companies, learn how to read it. Take a picture, put it in AI. AI will tell you what each line means. So be responsible in knowing what you got billed for, and say something if it doesn't look right.
Yeah, if it says you got a brace, a custom brace, and you see that charge on there, you could call and say, hey, where's my brace that I have never had a brace, because that's, you're catching fraud basically right there. You are catching it.
This episode of Credentialing Chronicles is sponsored by MedElevate Solutions, your partner in turning healthcare chaos into operational clarity. With deep expertise in ASC, hospital, or physician office operations, clinical workflows, and compliance, their team helps you work smarter, not harder. Learn more at medelevatesolutions.com. Simplifying processes, amplifying outcomes, one facility at a time.
To our DME providers, we're doing some DME contracting with a new client that we just got. And so, we understand, make sure that whoever's setting you up is setting you up correctly. is making sure that, what you're going to be selling is done responsibly and ethically. Make sure you're scrubbing your bills and you're, looking for errors, repeat charges, things like that. Because ultimately, CMS is using some of that AI to kind of catch some of that fraudulent billing.
Yes, ma'am. That is correct. So, Shannen, lots of fraud happening, but it's not one of us because it's not me. It's not you.
So. No, honey. No fraud over here.
So be careful out there and don't do anything shady because guess what? They're going to put you on LinkedIn. You got arrested with your video on there now.
And then now you're on the Craig Chronicles show. We're talking about your DMV, how you done got caught up for catheters.
All right, Shannen, until next time, we will have more tea to spill and we want
Follow
everybody
us, share, comment. If you love what we do, you got to share us.
Yes, and let us know any topics that you have. We check our emails every day. And so we're easily found on every social media platform, any podcasting platform. We'd love
Woo, that was a whole lot of tea. Who knew doctors had more drama than reality TV?
And if you think that was wild, just wait till next week. We've got more stories, more scandals, and more credentialing chaos coming your way.
And if you love the tea, please don't keep it to yourself. Like to show us you're listening. Please comment and join the conversation. And follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, share so everyone else can sip with us.
Yeah, so see you next time on Credentialing Chronicles. Stay credentialed, not canceled.